want to keep looking at files, but I suggest you get a set of your own. That way, mine can remain undisturbed, catalogued and neat. Oh, dear me. I'm terribly sorry. The R8 Rover 200, also known in this guise as the Rover Tomcat. It's built in Britain, it's got a British engine, and it rusts like a British car. But is it any good? Should you care? Why? Let's find out, shall we? Rover, proceed. So welcome once again to another episode of Retro Tweed Jacket Reviews, and today I'm on the A22 heading towards Caterham in Surrey with Matt from the Furious Driving YouTube channel. He's very kindly let me drive his 1993 Rover 220 Coupe. So thanks Matt from Furious Driving. That from Furious Driving? What can I tell you then about the R8 series of Rovers? It's very confusing. They were first launched in 1989, and the first model that came out was the Rover 200, the second series of a 200. Then in 1990 the 400 was launched, and that was available initially as a saloon, but they are the same car pretty much. Later on in 1992 the Coupe was launched. That was known as the Tomcat in terms, because that's the model name that they used for the prototype stage. And then later on we got the Cabriolet and the Tourer. It was a 200 Cabriolet and a 400 Tourer. In 1996 they actually got rid of all the 200 model names, so it was just called the Coupe, the Cabriolet and the Tourer, and they kept those in production until 1999. And by that time the 200 and 400 had moved on to new models. Mr. Franks, who normally films these reviews, who's not here today, I've got Matt behind the camera, would not enjoy this. This car's on coilover suspension, and the ride is so hard that every single little imperfection in these wonderfully maintained Surrey roads causes the car to rattle and shake like a bag of nails. It's kind of fun because the handling is superb, in contrast to like normal R8 models like my 216 SLI used to have, but it probably doesn't need to be on suspension quite this hard. Now we've found a better stretch of roads, I can tell you more about the drive dynamics of this car. So it was very similar to the Honda Concerto. In fact, a lot of the interior parts and general engineering underneath, double wishbone suspension is shared with Honda Concerto. This particular car, of course, being a coupe, has been lowered. The R8s in general, they do lean a bit in the corners, but they do have quite nice gearboxes if you go for the Honda PT1 gearbox. If you want a 214 though, you're going to be on the Rover R65 gearbox, which is engineered by Peugeot and is terrible. This one, however, does have a Honda PT1 gearbox, but the gear selector is really, really poor, and trying to get it to gear is akin to sort of stirring a bowl of fish porridge. Whoa! Sorry, Matt.
It's okay.
If you bought an R8 Rover back in the 90s, you were also offered an automatic option, which is generally available with the Honda D series engines. The 216 SLI that I used to have, the 216 SLI that I used to have had a Honda-matic 4-speed automatic gearbox, and it was as smooth as silk. It was so nice and refined to drive. The common misconception though is that you can't get an automatic car to spin the front tyres. I can assure you, in that car, because it had 110 horsepower and weighed nothing, the front tyres would spin very, very easily. Obviously, if you're driving the Coupe and you've got T-series engines, then you can just spin the tyres anyway. All the Coupes had this rather nice, what we would call these days a panoramic sunroof. Actually, it's a bit more than that. This is actually a targa top, and it lifts out, and you can take both the panels up. There's a special bag which, you know, a lot of owners still have, so you can put them in. That's one is currently not with the car, it's at home. But we'll let them off for this, just this once. So, once you've had your fun in, say, this lovely Rover Tomcat with the T-series engine, what sort of fuel economy can you expect? Well, probably you can expect around 30 miles per gallon if you've not been driving like a maniac. Probably a lot less. However, if you're driving a 216 with the Honda D-series engine, a single overhead cam variety that I used to have, 216 SLI, then you might get up to 40 miles per gallon. I actually measured that once with mine. Now, that's quite impressive for an automatic car from the mid-1990s with a 1.6 litre engine. The other thing I really like about these cars is the steering. Even mine, which, you know, rolled with all the grace of a stately yacht round bends, it actually had lovely steering. Hydraulically assisted steering. You can feel everything that's going on. And when these cars were launched in 1989, the press absolutely loved the way they drove. And I find that easy to understand why. Now, the car I had height adjustment in the in the seat, but you really do sit a bit high in those standard ones. Well, this one's a bit lower and it feels a lot more sporty. So the ride and handling balance depends on which car you go for, but I think they did do a very, very good job.
Here we are with anchors tying us to what we'll call home, even if the side of it has not yet touched our eyes. And here we are and we're together, even if we are apart.
Wow, this car does not drive like a typical grandfather's Rover. That was entertaining. Anyway, let's look at the more practical side of Rover Tomcat and take a look at the boot. I've been looking for a boot volume for this car, but I can't find one, but I reckon it's around 200 to 300 litres. So we've got all matched for me equipment in here, and it seems to fit quite nicely. You can fold the seats in this car, but it is an absolute pain, and I'm not even going to try. It does look really nice in the back though. Beautiful. This is the first ever two-door car for Tweed Jacket Reviews, and so we're going to have to go into the back through the passenger seat. If I step disgracefully into the back, then you'll see that it's a little cramped. Now this headlining is sagging, which a lot of Rover R8s have a problem with, but even so, I've got no headroom at all, I've got no legroom at all, and there is just no comfort whatsoever. It's not like your grandfather's Rover P6. Just before I'm released from my imprisonment, Matt says that he can't even get a child seat in the back due to the contours of the rear seat. But anyway, let's go take a seat back where I was before, the driver's seat. So if we open this trademark frameless door and take a seat in this wonderful part leather sports seat, you find that the interior of the Tomcat's actually really comfortable. One of the problems though is that the ergonomics are very questionable. These switches underneath the dials are rather like somebody ingested all of them in one go and spat them out, and they just stuck them where they landed. These seats themselves are pretty comfortable. I'm 5'11" and this is my driving position. They don't have any height adjustment, but they do have lumbar support, and the backrest has this knurled knob, and it's very easy to get a good position. Now, the R8 that I had, a 216 SLI automatic, had extremely good visibility. This car's got much thicker rear pillars than mine, and the headlining is sagging a little bit. But the front view is very good. The side view is absolutely fine. The windows are very long, that definitely helps, although I can't see too much when reversing because of the rear spoiler. The heated ventilation controls are some of the best I've ever used in any car. They are really, really simple. Very few R8 Rovers had air conditioning. There is like a blanking plate where it would have been. These stalks aren't very nice though. These are out of a Honda Concerto, and they definitely feel it. Definitely some 1980s Honda switchgear here. Same thing goes with the mirror switch, although it seems pretty reliable. So, in terms of practicality, the door pockets are quite shallow, but they are quite extensive. They go all the way along the door. The glove box, well, that's probably big enough for all the secret mission documents. The electric window switches, they're actually better positioned than in a later HHR Rover. That's on the door here. And there is a one-touch drivers down facility too. One of the things that I love about old Rovers is the spaciousness of this dashboard. Because there's no airbags in this car, airbags were only introduced about 1994. The top of the dashboard had this nice Rover mat with a Rover logo on it. There's this wood strip on the top with the bizarrely out of place digital clock. Apparently this one keeps good time. One in my car did not. And the door tops feel okay, although these 1980s Honda door handles do feel a bit flimsy. The instruments are very clear indeed. They're very easy to read, they're very large, and for the British market they're marked in 20 mile an hour increments from 10 miles an hour, so it's 10, 30, 50, 70, which is really handy. My wife's MG3 is the same. Also in this car we've got the original stereo, which is the Philips cassette unit, and that is wonderful to see. And of course, being a car from the 1990s, we have a cassette storage solution. In here we have a wonderful Maxell tape, and there are grooves within this central armrest for putting all the tapes you could ever need. So then, what do I think of this beautiful Rover Tomcat Coupe? Well, it really isn't a car for everyone, but it does date from a very interesting period of history where Rover were meant to be taken seriously. And these cars are really cheap for what they offer. I definitely recommend checking one out if you can. Oh, dear me, I'm terribly sorry. I'd like to think the bells were ringing. Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. My name is Joseph Lloyd. I'm an independent vehicle consultant. I find cars for people. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like to do that. Don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. If you wish me to source a car for you, I'd love to do that. My website is www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. Please use the Contact Me page on my website to get in touch. I've got a Facebook page as well. It's facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you. So Matt, what is it like to own a Rover 220 Coupe in 2019?
It's actually a lot better than it was in 2010 or 2009, because Rovers have suddenly gained a status of being an actual classic car, which when I first got this car, it was an interesting car and I thought it would be a classic, but so many people just laughed at it and didn't like it as a classic at all. I have really enjoyed driving it over the years because I am very much into Rovers anyway.
As am I.
As indeed you are, yeah. This is a friendship made in heaven here, or friendship made in Rovers. It's easy to work on. Parts mechanically are easy to get hold of. Bodywork parts are quite hard. Oh, I do live in fear of any kind of bodywork damage happening to the car. I would not sell it because so many of these cars are broken just for parts because they've got very minor problems with them. They're not worth a huge amount of money. If this was in near perfect condition, it might be worth maybe £2,000. I think some of the immaculate ones have been selling for £3,500 recently. But a car of this standard, probably worth between £1,000 and £2,000. So if I were to sell it on eBay and get a few £100s for it, chances are I'd see it being broken on Facebook within a few weeks. So I'm not going to sell it anytime. I really enjoy driving it. I have had some criticism on the channel because I followed the instructions on Dynamat packaging and put the Dynamat sound deadening on this surface of the door, not on the inside of the outer skin of the door. But I was following instructions, so I think I did okay. I could also add some additional heavier duty Dynamat to the outside skin and make it even quieter. And believe it or not, Joseph having been in this car and heard the door clang shut and the rattles on the road, this is much improved.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much indeed for that, Matt.
You're welcome.